What if the footage we saw on January 6th wasn't the footage we actually saw? What if this whole narrative about January 6th being an insurrection, an overthrow of the government, what if it's not true? So I've got to share an article with you at CNN. Now, this is buried. You really have to look for this. In fact, I stumbled upon this a few hours ago. So I wasn't even planning to do a video today, but when I saw this, I had to share it with the audience. Because if we're going to get to the truth, listen to me carefully, those of you who run YouTube, if you're going to get to the truth about what happened on January 6th, then you need to be honest about what happened on January 6th. And that means you have to look at every single angle that's out there about January 6th, no matter where it leads. So this is a story. Now, this came out August 17th, 2021. But this is a story by Marshall Cohen and Hannah Rabinowitz. Say that last name 3 times. Some U.S. Capitol rioters stay defiant even while pleading guilty. Boyd Camper was set to join the ranks of those pleading guilty in the January 6th insurrection, although they don't have that in quotes here, when the federal judge overseeing the case abruptly postponed the plea hearing over questions about whether Camper really believed he did anything wrong. Quote, "This plea doesn't go forward," Judge Colleen Collar-Cotterly told Camper's lawyer, who objected to a line in the plea deal that said Camper unlawfully, and that's in quotes, entered the U.S. Capitol. If he's in there and doesn't think he did anything wrong, then there is no plea. It's one example of the spectrum of contrition from the Capitol rioters. Some have offered emotional apologies and renounced, quote, the big lie. Well, maybe January 6th was the big lie about the 2020 election. Others remain defiant and see themselves as political prisoners. That's also in quotes. Some rioters, even while pleading guilty, pushed back when pressed by judges to take responsibility, leading to hiccups and delays at several recent hearings. Note what happened yesterday with these 3 defendants saying, wait a minute, we didn't obstruct anything. Yeah, we were there January 6th, but we didn't obstruct anything. And the lower court ruling that federal prosecutors bent the law beyond its scope to apply the charge here. I didn't say that, those of you who run YouTube. That was said by the lower court. Go back and check the record on that. Let me take a sip of my coffee here. The pushback from rioters comes at a key moment in the national reckoning over January 6th, as Congress ramps up its inquiries and as former President Donald Trump and his allies continue to whitewash the deadly attack, often promoting the same self-serving narratives as the rioters. A lack of remorse could also have legal consequences. Defendants who plead guilty aren't required to apologize, though it can persuade a judge to show leniency at sentencing. So what's going on here? So they were there on January 6th. Now, did you have people who were engaging in, breaking windows, these violent acts, whatever it was? Getting into fistfights with the cops, probably. And we've seen footage of that. But I've gone back and I've taken a look at that footage. And something you'll note. There's that famous scene, clip of these rioters trying to pick up the barricade, fighting with the cops. Well, I didn't see one of them wearing a Make America Great Again hat. Did you? I could be wrong on that. But from the footage that I saw, in this particular clip, I didn't see any of those people who were trying to pick up that barricade that wore a MAGA hat. The door was literally held up. This according to Camper, 54-year-old real estate investor from Montana, who came to Washington, D.C. to hear Trump speak at the now infamous rally on January 6th. He heeded Trump's words and marched to the Capitol. Like hundreds of others, he breached the building and got into the rotunda. So what do you imply here, CNN? Are you implying that Trump told these people to violently enter the Capitol building? That's not what he said. He said, now let's go peacefully and patriotically, and that's going to play a big part in Trump's trial here of whether he obstructed this election or whatever the case may be here. That's going to play a big part in this. A big part in it, I can guarantee you. And when the January 6th committee, when they had all these hearings, edited that clip, you knew the gig was up. Now, he was arrested in March talking about Camper and charged with 4 misdemeanors. Federal prosecutors offered him the typical deal for nonviolent rioters, and the plea hearing was scheduled. How can you be a nonviolent rioter? That doesn't make any sense. And the plea hearing was scheduled for late July. As part of the agreement, Camper was required to admit to key elements of the specific crime he was charged with. So he was required to admit to key elements of the specific crime he was charged with. So he just didn't come in and say, yeah, I did it, I'm guilty, charge me. He was required to admit to key elements of the specific crime. Very interesting. Illegally parading, demonstrating, or picketing inside the Capitol building. By the way, whatever happened to all these people who had this sit-in at the, the Cannon office building? These Jews for Peace? Whatever happened to them? Notice how they haven't been in the news recently. At a rescheduled plea hearing earlier this month, Camper acknowledged under oath that he entered a, quote, restricted area and made a bad choice. But here it comes, folks. But when asked if he knew he wasn't allowed in the Capitol itself, pardon me, he tried to make the case that police officers, quote, weren't even trying to stop us. Again, YouTube, those of you who run YouTube, this is at CNN. I didn't make this up. They wrote this story. The door was literally held up by someone who appeared to be a person of authority. Nonetheless, the judge accepted his guilty plea. And said, now, if I were the judge and I heard that, I would have said, case dismissed. Case dismissed. You can get him on these lesser charges if he engaged in, damaging property. Might be able to get him on trespassing. But even then, you'd have to contend that, seeing that he just testified, the doors were open. He was let in, according to this account here. Another pro-Trump rioter, John Lawless, nearly derailed his August 4th plea hearing when he made a similar comment about police supposedly waving him into the crypt in the Capitol basement. Quote, I just wanted to get that off my chest, and on the record, Lawless told the judge. Prosecutors asked if he was trying to renege on the plea agreement. I think that's how you pronounce it, R-E-N-E-G-E. His lawyer said he wanted to move forward with the deal as written and might raise the issue at sentencing. Lawless faces a maximum of 6 months in jail. Now, I don't know if he's in jail right now. As I said, this is an older story going back to 2021. Still, it might be risky to shift some blame onto the police before sentencing. Well, I think that's key here. I think that's important. Aren't the police supposed to be there to protect the public? Now, I'm not saying the police officers January 6th didn't do that, okay? Not saying that at all here. But I've gone back to this. The same question time and time again. Why wasn't there enough security to handle the crowd on January 6th in a town that always sees these rallies, these protests? But somehow we're glossing over that question, over that fact. Before sentencing, judges closely reviewed recommendations from the prosecutors and the defense. The Justice Department has said, quote, evidence of remorse or contrition is one key to getting a favorable recommendation. And remember what I said in yesterday's video. I said this yesterday. I said, I can guarantee you it's probably going to come out that some of these people who pleaded guilty were pressured to do so. Again, not accusing anybody of pressuring people to do that, but I can guarantee you it's probably going to come out that that's what happened. So moving on through the article here, because they give another example. That's exactly what, pardon me, getting choked up here. That's exactly what Indiana grandmother Anna Morgan Lloyd tried to do. She told Judge Thomas Hogan she went through a political transformation after watching movies and reading books about racial inequality. She apologized for her, quote, shameful participation in a savage display of violence. Now, it doesn't go on to say here what she actually did, but the judge gave her probation, but one day after sentencing, she went on Fox News and offered a very different perspective. She said she only entered the Capitol to protect an elderly woman, called the rioters, quote unquote, very polite, and said police were relaxed and didn't tell anybody to leave. So if this was an insurrection, these people were trying to obstruct this congressional proceeding over the 2020 election, the Electoral College vote. Why didn't the cops ask these people to leave, according to her testimony here? The about-face caught the eye of federal judge Thomas Hogan, who cited Morgan Lloyd for recently presiding over the plea hearing for a married couple that stormed the Capitol. Hogan said he, quote, was concerned whether we're, that's in parentheses, getting true acceptance of responsibility from the rioters. And some Republicans have downplayed the attack by comparing it to a tourist visit, falsely claiming that the jail defendants are political prisoners and lionizing, pardon me again, and lionizing the rioter who was killed by police. Who was Ashley Babbitt? The only person actually killed on January 6th was Ashley Babbitt. Now, you may have had some people who were hurt, injured, may have had to go to the hospital, but the only person killed on January 6th, despite what the media tells you, was Ashley Babbitt. I've gone back and I've checked the record. And the police, quote unquote, let us in theory has popped up in many Capitol riot cases and simultaneously emerged as a GOP talking point in Trump's recent interviews and in congressional hearings. So CNN, YouTube, those of you on social media, don't you think you should be investigating this? If you watch the channel, you know I don't pull any punches. I'm all for the truth, wherever it leads. I don't pull any punches here. I think both political parties are full of crap. They're all full of crap. And when you got people being let into the Capitol by police, there's a question there. And it does change the narrative slightly, and maybe that's something that people need to look into. So I thought I'd share this with you. Article at CNN, again, talking about these defendants, article from 2021, about how they have remained defiant despite their plea of guilty here, or pleading guilty, rather. So I hope you enjoyed the video. If you did, you know what to do. You can also follow me at Instagram, hashtag Jason Composes. Again, here's the title of the article in case you're interested, because this goes back to August 17th, 2021. Some U.S. Capitol rioters stay defiant even while pleading guilty. But if you enjoyed the video, you know what to do. You can also follow me at Instagram, hashtag Jason Composes, because I write music in my spare time. Or you can find me at X, Culture Confederacy, at Culture Confed1 on X. This is the Culture Confederacy saying peace out, stay safe, everybody. God bless this thing called the United States. And you know how we do it here. This is where the past crashes with the present. I'll catch you next time, and y'all have a great Thursday night.